Hill County Courtroom. Quorum of Commissioners is present established. Commissioner Lake is not in us at the moment, but he'll be joining us shortly. Another matter he has to attend to. This meeting was posted in accordance with Texas Government Code 551, better known as Texas Open Meetings Act. It was posted on the east door of the Hill County Courthouse last Friday. How do I know this? Because I did it myself. So I know it was posted. It's a good thing. Sometimes you got to kick on that. This is just continuation of a meeting we had yesterday, and the only action this morning will be budget hearings. We've had nobody sign up to speak publicly before 10 a.m. Before 8 a.m. Forgive me, this morning. So we'll have no on-screen participation unless the commissioners requested of some member of the public. First order of business today is open forum. Is there anybody here to speak on any topic before the court they wish to enunciate, elucidate, or otherwise propound upon, and let us know? Sweet. Well, you know, well, we're pretty clear that Trey didn't want to say anything. He's asking for money.
I'm going out home and bring some up.
No, I mean, you're welcome to, but I'm good at the moment. In which case, then we're going to move right into our budget hearings, which is the order of the day. Sooner we get through these, the sooner we get out of here is what the old still is. First off, oh, wait a minute. Train rule. You guys are familiar with the train rule, right? The windows are so bad in this courthouse because they're supposed to be this way according to historical commission, so we can't change them. When a train comes by, if we're holding court, more especially if we're holding court on the second floor, everybody is to stop everything they're doing in the proceeding and wait until the train passes because the jury cannot hear what's being said in the courtroom. So we do the same thing with fire trucks down here.
Yeah.
Anyway, all right. So our first order today is the Honorable Trey Jeton, a judge of the Justice of the Peace Court Precinct 1. Judge Jeton's proposed budget can be found here back 49. Thank you, sir. Go ahead, Judge. What you got?
All right. Well, good morning, everyone. I appreciate the time to present before the court this morning. Just to keep it very simple for everybody, I'm not asking for anything new this year. I found that the funds that were allocated to me last year have met the needs of the court for this budget cycle, and I don't anticipate anything changing next budget year. I think we're going to be right around the same figures for everything.
I don't mean to be contradictory on that statement by any means whatsoever. And I put what you've requested.
Yeah.
But I have a question.
Sure.
And it's on your postage. And now I know a lot of these 531-24 numbers are not correct due to some previous audit problems. Yeah. However, we had a budget of 500 and I see it as a 531, it says we spent 694. Is your postage sufficient? Or is this a one-time jump in postage, or are we going to need to move that budget up for you going forward?
Well, that was one of the things I did want to talk with everyone today about was the postage. We did see an increase in that postage. I think partially due to that increase was from last year coming into this budget cycle. We just had a shortage, and so we had to buy more than we normally would. I am in the process of making my court completely electronic in that case. Now, some things we are still going to notice by mail to include like our court notices and things, but I do anticipate the budget coming down as far as postage, just because we are going to spend less in paper. We are going to spend less in postage. That isn't going to happen by the end of this fiscal year. I'm still going to need that money. But I just wanted to let you guys know we are moving in that direction. I was able to meet with Judge Swearingen up in Fort Worth, who is one of the first courts at my level to go almost completely electronic. And we are starting to mimic some of those processes that he has implemented. So it'll actually be cool for Hill County because we're going to be one of the few JPs that are going to be doing this. As of right now, we are one of the few justice courts in the state that do offer electronic filing in our court. So
that has been a huge plus for a lot of attorneys. As a guy that practices as an attorney, a number of times I had people call me, well, why can't we file into your court, your JP courts? Because we're not set up to do it yet. These guys got on it and got it fixed. And like you said, we're one of the few, very few.
Yeah. So I think that was kind of cool. It's a notch for Hill County to be able to do that. I know as Judge has spoken, a lot of law firms, especially in the debt claim space, are very appreciative of that because those are very, very high volume paper files that come in that we don't have to deal with.
Yeah.
So as far as postage go, to go back to the original question, I do know I had requested 500 if the court would be gracious enough to maybe increase it by $100.
I think we should go to 750. Let me explain my thinking on that.
Okay.
Because if you don't use it, you're going to return it, number
Right.
one. But as of May, and understand that postage is not always linear. Sometimes it's loaded up front, sometimes loaded in the back. But we had 694 in postage through the 31st day of May this year. That's 7 months out of the 12 into this budget. If you project that out to an ending balance, we're going to be somewhere in the neighborhood of $1,190, somewhere in that. If we put it 750, that's $250 increase, 50% increase. But it sounds like with what you're doing to mitigate that postage issue on your end, plus a little bump from this end, might help things even out. I'm not worried about you going over your budget by any means, because clearly your expenditures are under in all your other lines. You're doing a good job of managing it. But I would recommend that we move that to 750 personally.
I would agree with that.
Okay, good to.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Just to go kind of top to bottom on everything else, dues and memberships, I don't foresee an increase in those charges. Those are pretty important to us. I'm a member of the TJC JA, which is your Texas Justice Court Association. Also the JPCA, which is your Justice of the Peace and Constables Association. Both those associations not only help with training, but also pushing out information as the Texas legislature meets and changes and flips our world upside down by unfunded mandates and things. They ensure that we're apprised of all the information, all the changes that happen. So those membership dues are actually quite important to us as far as keeping up to date with their training and also being aware of all the changes that come to us. Training and mileage. This one is always one of the harder ones to figure out, just because, you know, as you guys know, we're responsible for all the death inquests, and mileage fluctuates year to year. Right now, I think we're going to be okay. I don't foresee anything. I will keep a bug in ear. I have a very, very motivated clerk, and getting her a lot of extra training done, which I'm all for keeping that fire stoked. But as far as inquests and getting my training and her training done, I think we're going to be able to cover with the money that's been requested.
Okay.
Just a caveat to that, there's something I wanted to bring up to the court. My clerk now has, just as of last Friday, completed her civil court clerk certification.
Congratulations.
Say that 10 times. Which is a big deal. There's only 3 certifications in a court clerk's world. At least at our level, it's civil clerk, criminal clerk, and then your master clerk. You have to take civil and criminal in whatever order you want first. After you've completed those criteria, then you can move to your master clerk. It is a big deal because they do get asked a lot of difficult questions. They do have to prove a pretty high bar of knowledge to be able to obtain that certification. I know we've implemented a new pay scale with the county, and I always want to adhere to that. One thing I would ask you guys to consider is I think it's important to go ahead and reward in some way clerks who achieve this extra certification. It's not something that's required by the state or by any court that I'm aware of, but this is something that she wanted to do. She spent her own time at home studying, you know, after going to work for 8 hours, and she wanted to achieve this. So I think it would be important for us to go ahead and reward that in some way. So if there's something that maybe we can talk about and how to do that, I'm all ears.
Okay, good.
Okay. Bonds and insurance, I don't foresee a change there. Supplies, again, we've been covering it. I think we're going to have enough. We already talked about postage. My machine equipment, I haven't been told, and we're on a contract for that.
Yeah,
should be the same. That printer we've opened up to all the other offices in the building, just because it's the only mass printer that's there.
Yeah.
So I have no problem the other offices using it. I just like to.
We're going to double check that number to make sure. I believe it's going to be correct, but last year we kind of guessed at 2,000.
Yeah.
Usually machine equipment rental, when you see a round figure, for those of you paying attention at home, that's a guess. Rarely does a round figure come out what it is. We actually look at the contracts and we base it on the contracts. So obviously we bought a machine over there. It's a little more expensive than others because exactly what the judge said, the court shares that machine with everybody in that building.
Yeah.
But okay, good deal.
As far as phone, I'm really glad Philip is here. I know we've allotted an amount for phone. I know we've recently, as of this budget cycle, have changed over to a VoIP system. Will that affect on my end as far as paying phone bills? I wasn't sure how that worked. Do you know?
Yes, I'm looking at Rachel for confirmation.
Okay.
Isn't that bill broken down in each piece, like, for, JP one, we charge to his office?
Yes.
What's the charge of the VoIP phone line out of curiosity? So we don't need to go up on it, is what we're saying. Yeah, let's wait a year and leave it at where it's at right now. But still got the cell phone because we have to pay for the phone for JPs. They're on call 24/7 like I am, like you guys are. And we've got the VoIP phone and you're talking a couple $100 max if it's case, and we get that back at the end of the year in the general fund if he doesn't spend it. So
Yeah, no, I'm in agreement with that. That was part of the reason we wanted to go with the VoIP was it's going to be cheaper for the county. So we can make adjustments next year, I guess. if we need to.
yeah, it's that work.
And then as far as miscellaneous goes, my office, we try to catch the little things here and there that the building requires out at Huron, just little things that come up with part of maintenance of the building or whatever. I have no problem absorbing that in my miscellaneous. So I would ask that we keep it where it's at. I know we had a discussion about it going up last year and I do appreciate it. So I think it is sufficient to cover all the things that happen.
The only thing that's missing in here is something that maybe not only for general conversation in public, but I'm going to put it this way. As of the 1st of January, you will be the jail magistrate, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so that's my understanding amongst JPs. So what I'm going to have to do is put a stipend line in here. Right now we pay precinct 2, who's a jail magistrate. He'll end those duties on the 31st of December. He'll pick them up. So what I'm going to have to do is split that amount in half. It's $8,500 as a stipend. And what will happen is from October 1 through December 31st, JP2 gets a stipend. And then from January 1st all the way through, I say split in half, it's not split in half, it's 3 months. You get that. Sorry, I realized I misspoke in a second there. Went back and looking at what I was saying, going, that didn't make any sense mathematically. Anyway, from January 1 all the way through the end of next fiscal year, it's going to be trade. And now the reason we have to do that now, because he's elected official, so any stipends or salaries have to be put in his budget during this process, according to 153 of the local government code. So you're going to see me enter in, and I'm going to ask Rachel's help with this, to give 3 months to JP2 and then put a line in for JP1, and he gets the remainder of that. So
Yes.
oh yeah, let's talk about that.
I'm glad you brought that up. So I am anticipating an extended absence for my clerk starting sometime in January, probably early January. Yes. Yeah. And so I am gonna need to talk to you guys about working in money into my budget. That way I still have coverage. It is very important, especially for a JP, because we service so many cases a year, to have a clerk there. And the reason why that is because as a judge, you can't be prefaced to a case before you actually hear it in court. And a lot of times when people come in and want to file a case or they get noticed that they're being sued, they want to tell their entire life story or want to lay out the whole case, which that's great. I understand people feel the need to do that, but I can't hear it.
Ex parte communication.
Yes, because then we got to start trying to, if I hear it, I got to bring in a judge from somewhere else to sit the case, and it's a big mess. So it is very important that I have a clerk who can hear all these things and it not affect the court case.
So a couple of questions. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Contract services line item?
I don't believe I have.
Do you have it built in?
No, I would ask that we build it into to an existing.
It's not put in yet. So what we need to do is probably part-time. The questions I have to fill this out. Number one, how long do you think that you're going to need this person? 6, 8 weeks?
I would round that time.
Okay. And number two, I'm just going to be blunt about this. Where do we find this person at? Because your systems are somewhat proprietary.
Yeah.
Find somebody off the street. How do we propose to do that? I know last time we begged, borrowed, and stole from other offices and everybody helped everybody out. That wasn't the easiest way of doing things.
No.
But it did bring a knowledge of the system instead of trying to teach somebody the entirety of the Navigator.
Yes.
And while it's great that your court's going to all electronic, and I hope my court does that very soon.
Yeah.
But anyway, I know the difficulty that's going to present because you're going to have to bring somebody up to speed on a lot of that stuff.
Yes.
So the question is, You got any idea what we're gonna do?
So I guess the simplest answer to that, I think, is gonna be we bring someone in before the absence starts with my current clerk, and we're able to bring that person up to speed. That way, when my current clerk leaves, that part-time person can kind of hit the ground running.
So I figured in 10 weeks, and hear me out on my 10 weeks theory on this. You're gonna need at least 2 weeks before. You're gonna need the duration of 6 weeks, if that's all it is. If it's, oh, forgive me. See, I've always get this backwards. Agreed. Well, I thought maternity was 6, but no, it's 12. Okay, see, I'm antiquated in my thoughts. So anyway, so we're now at 14 weeks and probably 16 weeks, 2 weeks before to get up to speed. If she's out the entirety of the 12 weeks, and then 2 weeks after to get back up to speed for the employee that's been out for 12 weeks. Because you can't just expect that person to step back in after 3 months and go, I got it from here.
Yeah.
There's a lot. So.
But I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
And one thing that I have brought up in the past, and I brought it up last year, if it's something you'd be willing to entertain, I believe that there is a need in my office for a part-time position. Shane, Judge Brassel has also brought up a situation where he had excess work in his office. And I brought up maybe a possibility of having a part-time person under my budget that can then be, can pick up the extra work that's in my office, but also as other offices have that extra work, because sometimes it isn't year round, but we do have busy times. They can be sent or flexed to different offices to help just pick up the slack that's there. I don't know if that's something the court would be willing to entertain, but it is another option.
I'm not telling you no straight out. Maybe is the answer, but just our past experience with that, we've done it a couple of times. It just doesn't work out well. It's difficult to answer to multiple different bosses. And again, we'll look into it again. I'm not saying no, just saying maybe. Just our past experiences with it were unpleasant, to say the least. We've tried it in my office. I need to, like I said, when I got here, there were actually 2 people in the front office. We shared that person with another office and found very quickly it's very hard to keep accountability unless you were in direct communication with the other person 24/7, trying to figure out, okay, what'd you tell them to do? This is what I need them to do. And then you found out later that, wait a minute, neither one of you is really doing what you're any good. So it's kind of troublesome. It is, because then it created some hard feelings amongst the offices. A different time we tried, actually we did it with JPs, because you had one JP, I need that person this week, but no, I have to have them this week. And it became a bit of a, and you're like, okay, we could have avoided a lot of this by figuring out a different way of doing things. Again, not saying no to it, not saying no.
Right.
It's just, let's figure out a way that we might accomplish something that's useful for our party without bringing more tension into the convention.
Yeah.
IT people are coming to get you, things are bad.
Yeah, like I said originally, I think the easiest solution would be to bring in someone a few weeks early, get them up to speed, and then like you had said, leave them for a couple of weeks after my clerk has returned. That way we can get my clerk back up to speed. I think that would probably be the easiest solution to it. I think if, eventually I can show you the numbers, but I think eventually there is a legitimate need in my office, at least for a part-time person. And if they fall under one budget, at least they know who they're answering to. And then I can work with the other judges as to how it's going to work.
Yeah.
But ultimately they would just answer to one person.
It's like those qualifications wrong.
I think, well, having hired a couple of court clerks now, I think where we are, I have yet to find anyone with any real court clerk experience. I have had one person that's applied out of a lot of applicants. So I think it is the expectation would be they come in with no prior knowledge. I'm going to have work from scratch, which we'd start them at the clerk 1 position. And then as they attain certification and more training and more knowledge, they can work their way up the ladder. But I think you would ultimately start them at a clerk 1 position.
Okay, well, let's see what we can get figured out on that end. Making notes here. Okay, cool.
But as far as budget, that's what I got.
Cool. Thank you. Thank you. Any questions for the good judge, gentlemen? If not, proud of you for going back to law school, man. That's gonna be tough, but I'm real proud of you for doing it. It's gonna be a big benefit to the citizens of Hill County
Thank
to have a legally trained JP. So thank you for doing it.
Thank you.
Your time, your money, and I know it stinks.
Ooh, it's gonna be a lot of both.
Yeah, it's a mere 40 years. It goes by quickly.
Yeah. Awesome. I couldn't believe the amount just for books
Oh,
that I've spent on this
It's
semester.
it's insane. And I don't know what you're paying. I know this. I just paid more for my daughter's last semester of her junior year at A&M than I paid for any semester at law school. And I thought law school was highway robbery. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, between tuition and books, I understand why attorneys charge.
Yeah. It doesn't get better.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you,
Thank
buddy.
you.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Oh, the 20, okay, guys.
That small.
Small estate. Gentlemen, I unfortunately have 4 probates on the docket today I have to stop and do. At this point, I'm going to take about a 15-minute recess after we get the first one. You know, Judge Brazel went yesterday. This way, what we're going to do is I'm going to take those 2 hearings in my office because we set them up by Zoom, so we don't have to worry about clearing the courtroom out, and then we'll be back after that. So at this time, we're going to stand recessed until approximately 10:40, let's call it 10:40. And we'll be back. All right. Thank you very much. And that's gonna have to go away for a minute. Anybody that's online, we're gonna have to kick you off, unfortunately, because I had to use the same Zoom link for my probate. Just know that we'll be back on about 10:40, so please click back on at 10:40.